From the Dead Workers Party, a podcast about gaming featuring the people that bring your games to life. These are your core elements. Core Elements, episode 44, recorded on June 25th, 2013. I am Wes Wilson.
I am Spencer Williams, and with us today is Joe McDonagh. I didn't ask you how to pronounce your name before the show. How's it going, Joe?
You did perfectly. Well done. Good to see you guys.
And Joe, you are with Blue Manchu.
That is correct. Yeah, I'm a director of Blue Manchu.
And you're working on a game right now.
That's right. We're working on a new game called Card Hunter. It's a CCG crossed with a dungeon crawler. And
how do you've also worked with a lot of other companies. You're pretty big in gaming.
That's very polite of you to say that. My mother would be thrilled to hear that. I'm not sure it's strictly accurate, but yeah, I've done a few things in the past. I used to work for Irrational Games. I worked on BioShock and BioShock Infinite, and then I was a creative director at LucasArts for a bit, and then my last gig was at PopCat, where I was a production director, and I was also in charge of Peggle.
And that is like one of those delightful games that everybody in their core loves and doesn't want to admit to.
Yeah.
How is it possible to overstate your impact on the industry when you were the director of Peggle?
Well, I wasn't. So I should be really, really clear about that. I wasn't the director of Peggle. That was a guy called Sukhbir Sidhu. But I was in charge of the franchise for the last kind of 18 months, and was in charge of getting the second game up and running. But I mean, I love that game, and for me, I think it's one of the greatest games ever made. And I mean, I don't think I've ever played a game that can make you happier than Peggle, right? And so for me, it was a big thing to work at PopCat, was to go from working on first-person shooters. I really wanted to work on learning how to make casual games and make things that were kind of for a broader audience. And so I think Peggle is one of the most appealing games ever made by anybody. So I think it's a great game.
Have you ever figured out exactly what it is about that game that is so enthralling? Yeah.
I don't. Well, I think I've got some ideas. I mean, I used to spend an hour playing it every single day of my working life for a year and a half to try to figure that out. And actually, the reason why Peggle is such a great game and is so universally loved is that there is no better game no game has ever been better at creating positive feedback to the player. Particularly so visual and audio feedback. And so everything about that game is about making you feel good and rewarding you. So here's a good example of that is if you look at when you fail to hit a peg in Peggle, when you shoot and you miss all the pegs and you go through the floor, there's a very clever mechanic in the game where it tosses the coin. Do you remember this? It tosses a coin, and if it comes up, if it goes tails, then you don't get another shot. And if it goes heads, then it gives you the ball back. And that's an absolutely ingenious invention, because what it means is that even when you fail, you feel great. You're rewarded when you fail. And the genius of the game is that when you do something great, it's because you think it's because of your skill. And when you do something that's terrible, you put it down to bad luck. And I think that is really the heart of Peggle's brilliance.
Do you think that there is something to be said for the arbitrary nature of it? Does the fact that really, in a lot of ways, you don't have much control, it's mostly the illusion of control?
Well, I think it comes to what I just said. It's like there's a huge amount of luck. There's so much luck in it that when you do something bad, you think, oh, that was just luck. But when you do, but there's just enough skill in it to make you think.
That is so inaccurate in my case. Yeah. Whenever I do something bad in Peggle, it is my fault. I mean,
do you self-flagellate?
There are tears. I will say. Yeah.
Well, actually, I used to get in terrible trouble for expounding this with the team, because there were some of the guys on the team were just the most fanatical Peggle people. Like, so I'll give you an example. One of the guys who worked on the team for Halloween came in dressed as Bjorn, the unicorn. That's how in love with Peggle he was. The reason I bring it up
is
because
real men dress as unicorn.
That's right. I almost gave him a pay rise for doing that, but he would say go on YouTube and look for like Peggle high scores, and you'll find people on there who consistently post the most gigantic high scores. And so that shows beyond doubt that Peggle is a game of pure skill.
Did you have any exposure? And this is so funny. We brought you on to talk about your game. We're going to talk about PopCap instead. Were you involved with the PVZ stuff at all?
So I wasn't there when the game originally came out, but I managed that team for about a year. There's a guy called George Fan who made Plants vs Zombies. So I know the team really well. I know the game really well, and I know the second one well. Yeah.
And like that's another game that, I mean, it's basic tower defense, but it tapped into something very primal. And I think there's something to be said there for taking an idea and putting a fine point on it. Like you can pick on PopCap about a lot of stuff, but when they make something, it is hyper focused in doing what it's doing.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out what the question is. Is it?
There's no question.
Yeah,
it's just a commentary.
Yeah, I'm just trying to be an intellectual.
And anyway, we don't want to talk about Peggle.
Oh, no, I'm delighted to talk about Peggle. I absolutely love that game. Excuse me for swearing. And Plants vs Zombies is a work of genius as well. One thing I will say about Plants vs Zombies, and I've been very lucky to work close to a couple of great games, be involved with or seen a couple of great games being made or seen the after effect. And the thing that is very common about those games, two things are common. One, the team that have made the game have invested everything they've got into it, like 110%. They've got their skin in the game. So that's a crucial element. And the second part of it is often, and I think particularly Plants vs Zombies and BioShock, that I always get this wrong, this saying, so forgive me if I mash this up. And I think it's something like the sum of the part, the whole is greater than the sum of the parts, isn't it something like that?
Yes.
I think I always get that wrong. But the point is both BioShock and Plants vs Zombies it's the singularity of the experience that make them great things, that they feel like a single entity. And that's generally because there's one person behind that who is breathing life into that, whether that's Ken Levine or George Fan.
Well, you know what I can't wait to talk about?
Yeah.
Card Hunter. But before we get to that, we have a few other things that we have to get out of the way. So that means that this is a much wordier way of saying but first, but I'm kind of tired of saying but first. So I just decided I'd blather on for a while until Wes finally cut me off. And so that'll do.
Lab notes.
So it has been a long time since our last show, so let's talk a little bit about the games that we're playing. My list is surprisingly sparse.
So is mine.
We have been, I've kind of got a little fixated on Smite. We started a new podcast about it because we're having so much fun with it. However, I kind of started getting mad at myself because there's something nihilistic about pure PvP games that have no other like storytelling about them at all. So I although I am loving Smite and still playing it, I felt the need to reach out and do something else. So in the land of, hey, let's do something that has great meaning, I picked up WoW again.
Wow.
And you might say, what? Why did you do that? Well, there's a good reason. My wife and I played WoW with our family a lot, and her father passed away last year, and we all kind of stopped playing shortly after Pandaria came out, and we still wanted to experience that content, and so I picked it back up. I've been poking around with it with my wife again. We've been working through the content. We're almost to 90. We're having a great time. But again, even that, I was like, I need more. There's got to be more to my gaming than this. So I picked up The Witcher. Actually, not The Witcher, The Witcher 2, because I hadn't played that yet, and I loved the first one so much, and I thought, well, there's good story-driven stuff, and I have really been enjoying it. I've gotten through the whole first act, but some of the combat is so incredibly frustrating, and there's one very long QuickTime event that I was cursing under my breath while my children were walking behind me. It was great, but I really that game, and it helped a lot. Also, Spencer gave me a new video card. I got his hand-me-down video card, and that really improved the gameplay of that. My poor GTS 250 could not handle The Witcher 2 very well, and this new video card handles it much better.
Yeah, well, it's not my Dual Titans.
I don't want to hear it. I
don't have Dual Titans.
You have one. You have one Titan,
I don't
though.
have Dual Titans. I don't have $2,000 to spend on video cards.
So, and then there's been one other very shameful thing I've been doing. I have been playing Candy Crush Saga and Duel of the Champions, and I consider these both to have very similar things, and that is there's the whole I am playing against a static board thing. I'm not really that interested in playing Duel of the Champions against other people. I mostly am poking around with it to play the campaign. Like I want an interesting campaign in a CCG game. And so really it's been kind of self-flagellating, like trying to get past level 29 of Candy Crush Saga. And I'll tell you what Candy Crush Saga did that was particularly evil and got me sucked in. In the first 5 or 6 levels.
You realize we're like losing permanent viewers.
That's fine. I'm okay with this. Hey,
here.
There was a time that I talked to Farmville on Nation of Gamers. They can handle it. Anyway.
Yeah, that was such a great show.
So like the first 5 or 6 levels of Candy Crush Saga, I crushed so thoroughly that I was the number 1 out of all of my friends. And so I went, I can rule this whole game. I'm like, everyone who plays it after me, when they go to look at the high scoreboard, number 1 will be Wes Wilson. And I have not been able to replicate that since about level 9. But Duel of the Champions has a lot of the same elements. I want to play the campaign. I start playing my cards, and when I go and then I get crushed, and so I have actually gotten to where sometimes I dual screen it. I have Candy Crush Saga on the left screen and Duel of Champions on the right screen, and I just sort of go back and forth.
Oh my god!
Isn't it horrible?
It is.
Have I reached the doldrums of gaming?
It's like you're a TV critic, and all that you watch is like Cheers.
So anyway, that's.
I don't know what I meant by that.
I don't either.
No offense to Cheers fans.
That's pretty much my last month of gaming. How about you, Spencer? What have you been playing?
My list is even sparser than yours. The first thing I've got on here is I am still playing Defiance.
I'm impressed by that.
Well, don't be.
Okay.
It's not an intentional thing. It's just something that has happened, and it's an okay game. You know, it's not great. It's not terrible.
Yeah. It's
just sort of okay. And I didn't watch the show because, you know, there's a tie-in show. I didn't watch that for a long time because I was afraid that it was going to ruin my opinion of the game. And then I watched the show, and the show, you know, the show's okay. It's not great, but
I liked the pilot.
It's okay. You know, it's not. But the thing is, it has zero expectations of me. Like, when I say expectations, I mean, I can log on and I can play something, and it like there's zero stress. Like, I walk up, I shoot some stuff, I take another quest, I shoot some more stuff, and it's sort of, I don't know, meditative. Because it's not very good, but it's not great, it's not bad, but it's not terrible. It's just sort of in this zone where I'm just sort of existing.
Yeah.
And I don't know. There's something to be said for that, and I'm probably going to play more tonight. The other thing is I have been desperately trying to finish Persona 3, and specifically I'm playing Persona 3 Portable, and I'm at the very end of the game, and I haven't finished it yet. But the thing is, I've been playing it essentially since 2007. I have been playing this game since 2007, and I have never finished it. And I sent a copy of it to my friend Random Inuyasha, and she finished it in literally like no time at all. And I'm like, oh my God, what is wrong with me? I've been playing this game for 6 years, and I'm not done with it.
I mean, do you feel like it's because she didn't experience the game like you have experienced the game, Spencer?
No, I don't feel that way at all. I feel like I am a terrible gamer, that I'm slow and I can't pay attention to anything for longer than 5 minutes. But here's the thing. I'm at the very end of the game, and now I've stopped playing it because I don't want to finish it. I don't want it to be over. It would be like burying this.
This is the longest relationship you've ever had, isn't
I was going to say, it sounds like a relationship.
I have been playing this game since before I married my wife.
Exactly.
How does your wife feel about it?
She knows all the music.
It's the other woman.
It was actually I bought the game when it first came out, and it's an Atlas game, and they have their special editions that they put out with every single game, and their special editions are just for people that start the game.
Right.
Not start, the people that first buy it. And so it came with a soundtrack CD. And one day she got into the car, and I had surreptitiously slid the soundtrack CD in. And about like 3 minutes into our car, she goes, "Is this Persona?" And I just said, "I'm so proud." She's like, "Don't be. I've been listening to this crap forever." So that's it for me. I've been poking around with other things, but not enough to really talk about. So, yeah, Joe, have you been playing anything, or have you been too busy
playing a ton? No, I've been playing a ton of stuff. I'm in the depths of a deep and sordid World of Tanks obsession. I've been playing about an hour to 3 hours a day.
Oh my gosh.
I know, it's pretty hardcore. I'm really loving that game. It's just it's an awesome game. Look, I know a lot of people don't like free to play games, but I actually think it's the best free to play game I've ever played in my life. And
let me interrupt you real quick, because I have it installed.
Yeah.
Specifically because I bought an NVIDIA video card, and it came with $50 of credit in World of Tanks.
Yeah.
And I haven't brought myself to play it.
Yeah, why not
buy anything with that $50? I don't know. It's just like,
is it because it's free to play? Do you feel you want to spit on it and grind it to the dust?
No, we don't mind that. Yeah, we don't mind that. I know when I went to E3, there were all the tanks around, and at first I was like, "This seems really cool," and then I went, "No, this seems like a diversion."
What do you mean?
I felt like they were trying to impress me with large military hardware so that I would never notice that the game was terrible.
No, the game is brilliant. The game is brilliant because here's the thing. Like, I'm going to I'll break it down a little bit for you. Like, it's basically a shooter with tactics, which is brilliant. For old men like me, like, I don't know about you. I wonder if you guys have had the experience I've had the last couple of years of realizing that I'm a gaming has-been. Like, go and play Call of Duty on your Xbox and realize that your reflexes have now been dulled by middle age and you can no longer compete. And so I still love playing
I have
shooters.
no idea what you're talking about.
You don't know what I'm talking about, do you? But I love shooters, but I just can't compete. I find the experience really tough. And so World of Tanks, because of the nature of the fiction, because they're tanks, it's all about flanking and it's all about terrain and taking position. It's actually a very hardcore and deadly game, which is very punishing. It doesn't allow you to make many mistakes. So because the pace is a little bit slower, it's actually it's incredibly satisfying fusion of shooting plus tactics. So I really recommend you check it out.
I actually will. When we got back from E3 2 years ago, Brent tried it out and hated it, and he loves PvP stuff. So I kind of trusted him on that one, and I have been betrayed, evidently.
Well, it's pretty hard, and it's a bit unforgiving as well. So it's not an easy. It doesn't kind of really hold your hand into the game. So that can put people off.
Yeah.
Have you spent any money on it?
I've spent a fortune on it, guys. I think I spent about $300 or $400 on it. I spent $50 on a tank the other day that doesn't exist.
What?
$50 on a tank.
What did you do?
It exists.
And do you know what's really sad was that I actually bought myself the tank and I bought my brother a tank, the same tank in England, so that we could play together.
Okay, so I have this $50 that is in the game. What should I buy? Should I buy a fake tank?
No, well, you could do, but no. Actually, what you should do is buy the subscription, because this is the really smart thing about it. Like for me, like the free-to-play games that work are the ones that basically say to the player, "Look, you're either time poor or you're monetarily poor. You decide how you're going to pay us." And that's what the subscription does. It basically, I get to say I want to accelerate my way through the game at a faster pace than I'm used to, and so buy the subscription.
That's usually the way I look at it, and that's the way a lot of things in life are becoming. Like, I know I went to Halloween Horror Nights at Universal once, and there were these incredible satanic long lines to get into the haunted houses. But then they said
that was the horror part.
Exactly. And then they said, but if you pay us an extra $50, we'll let you in to every single one of those super quick. Yeah. And then you get in that line, and you're in line with all the people who don't have to worry about money. They just worry about their time. And they are so much more laid back than the people in the lines. Anyway, so.
Well, I'd say here's a different way of looking at it. It's like going out to dinner, right? It's convenient. It's just convenience. Like, I get somebody else to buy the food and cook it for me because I'm too lazy to do it myself. Right? But I'm okay with it. I'm okay with that because I get a choice. So that's what you should buy.
Okay.
Oh, I forgot. Can I mention what else I was playing?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, a couple other things I'm really excited about. Kingdom Rush Frontiers, the sequel to Kingdom Rush on the iPad. Do you guys know that?
I played it on Joey Betts was on from Armor Games. Yeah. Was on our show.
It's awesome.
Yeah. It was one of my favorite tower defense games I've ever played. I might play it on the PC if it's available instead of on a tablet, because I don't have a good tablet. But
right, it's brilliant. It's the best. I think it's the best. I'll probably get killed by the Plants vs Zombies people, but I think it's the best tower defense game on the iPad. And then the third thing which I discovered this weekend, which I am unbelievably excited about, is super nerdy. It's called Crusader Kings 2, a Paradox interactive strategy game. And I'm a strategy gamer by heart, and I'm always looking for interesting and weird and fresh ideas. And I'm also obviously professionally a storyteller. So this game, do you know this game, Crusader Kings 2? Have you ever come across this?
I think it was on sale on Steam. Yes, it is. It was 50% off. It still is, isn't it? No.
Go and check it out, because if you like storytelling, it is a work of pure genius. Look, you got to like history, because it's the way I describe it is a football management game meets medieval history, right? But the thing is, what happens, which is super cool, is you basically take a dynasty and you manage it from 1066 to 1485, and of course all this crazy dynamic storytelling stuff happens. So last night, I think my uncle assassinated my wife.
that can happen.
Well, I actually, all the time.
I was at a family reunion this last weekend, and I can tell you it was no murder-free picnic.
Right. Well, sorry to hear that, but it's a work of genius, because so when I was at LucasArts, one of the things I'm proudest of in my career was I banned cutscenes at LucasArts, because I absolutely detest cutscenes in video games. I think they're a complete cop out, and they've got zero interest to most players. And so what I'm really interested in is games that allow the player to tell his own story through his actions. And Crusader Kings 2 is this extraordinary and fresh take on that.
Do you know I've tried to play it several times?
Yeah.
And I keep getting hung up on the tutorial, and everyone keeps telling me the tutorial is terrible. But this is what happens when I try the tutorial. Like, I start the tutorial and it tells me to press a button, and the button doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So
it's
I
horrible.
skip that step, and I go to the next step, and it actually doing what it tells me to do then crashes the game. Yeah. So I start the game back up, and I'm back on the first step, and I accidentally try and hit the button that doesn't exist again, and then I get frustrated and never play it.
So I totally understand, because it sat on my PC for 6 months for that reason, and every time I fired it up, I thought, I don't want to invest 2 hours in learning how to play this game to play it. But all I can say to you, I wish to God I'd learned this last summer, because this is one of the most exciting games I've played for a long time. Here's my tip to you. Go and find a beginner's guide online. Go to like Crusader Kings 2 wiki or something, and just throw yourself into it. And you will have an amazingly fresh experience.
So if I had to pick, like, what am I going to play tonight? Crusader Kings or World of Tanks?
Oh, that
I'm
that
putting you on the spot.
you are. That is tough, man. I mean, what are you feeling? That's how I'd put it. Are you looking for something slow and gentle and cerebral, or are you looking for some hardcore violence?
I really kind of want to take a nap.
It's too exhausting, the decision.
Yeah. I think I'll play single player Talisman Prologue some more. That sounds good.
Is that good? I haven't played that. I was pretty excited about seeing it. No? Okay. Because Talisman's a pretty lengthy game.
I love Talisman, and Talisman Prologue is terrible. So
Is it? That's sad. Is Talisman still as good as it was when we were kids?
I am a Talisman junkie.
Oh,
I
yeah?
actually own I own all of the current edition. I would own more of the previous editions if it wasn't so expensive on eBay. Yes and no. Like we're really going off on a tangent here, but there's a new publisher. It's no longer Games Workshop now. It's Fantasy Flight Games, and they've put some new ideas into it. And so some of those ideas are fun, and some of them are terrible. So
Yep. Well,
so that's my Talisman spiel. So
okay.
Eureka! Ow! So the elephant in the room was the Sony Xbox thing at E3. I think I have never seen that much response from the gamer community ever about anything. I know that when I was watching the Sony presser, I like my wife was staring at me like I was a crazy person, because I was just going, oh my god, they are barbecuing Xbox, they are cooking them up and serving them. And yet when I got done with it all and I went and started looking at a lot of the facts behind everything, that was the result of a lot of misconceptions about what Xbox One was going to do. Did y'all follow that whole debate at all very much?
Well, I was watching it open mouth like you. I don't think I've ever seen anything like it in the games industry. I've never seen an E3 like it before. I mean, I think it was a catastrophe for Microsoft, and I'm personally not sure they can actually recover from it.
I did not watch it because I don't know. I've watched E3 in the past, and I'm kind of tired of spending that much time watching a commercial.
Yeah.
So I skipped it this time, and I'm glad I did, just because, at the end of the day, the question who won E3 is really a pointless question. I mean, is it going to matter come Christmas time who won E3? Not really. What's going to matter is that the PS3 is $100 cheaper. That's going to matter, but as far as all of the stuff, I guess it ended up in changing the course of the Xbox One. I hate that name so much.
You don't like Xbone?
I don't like, I like Xbone. If they'd called it the Xbone, I'd like it, but they don't. They call it the Xbox One.
Yeah.
But so.
Well, I really was amazed. I thought it was an assassination. Watching it, it was like Bloodsport, and it was a
triumph of marketing, though. That's the thing.
But the thing is, it was speaking directly to the customers of the product in the way that they wanted to be spoken to, and I've never seen an entire company's business model be undercut so absolutely within a 1 hour period. And I was going, oh my God, I was so motivated. I went and made animated GIFs to pick on Xbox.
Oh my God.
That's how much it motivated. I had to go and make something and stick it on Reddit and hope it got upvotes, because I wanted to join in the celebration of the public burning of Xbox for their hubris. But at the same time, I came here to the studio that week, and Brent, who is very cynical, basically said, yeah, but none of the stuff that they were picking on is true. And when you go back and actually look at what Xbox One was trying to do, it wasn't as bad as the public perception of it.
Well, again, this is a marketing thing more than anything else. This was Microsoft's failure to communicate what their system was in any way, shape, or form. If they had not given that opening, then Sony couldn't have taken it. So, again, it's still Microsoft's fault at the end of the day. It's just, but at the same time, it's pointless. It's not going to matter at the end of this next console cycle at all. I mean, it doesn't matter at this point that the PlayStation 3 had an abysmal start, does it?
No.
So I don't know. I'm having a hard time getting at all interested in this story whatsoever.
So what was, I mean, were you feeling a lot of what I was feeling, Joe?
I thought, well, to a degree, the actual feeling, I think I said this to somebody last week, the thing that I felt most actually was it was a little bit like the kind of, it was a little bit like standing by the Maginot Line and discussing admiring its defensive qualities while there's a huge war going on, while the tanks are rolling through Belgium. Like, I just don't think it, guys, this is one of the great things about being independent. I can say this now. I don't think it's going to matter. I really don't. Yeah. I personally don't believe these consoles are going to be that successful. I think it feels like what I describe as the Great Console War of 2005, and I think they feel, for me, I think the whole thing, the debacle, just confirmed what I think is the real story here, which is that these hardware manufacturers are completely out of step with what people want, and they're completely out of step with where the market is going. And I think they're going to go the way of the dinosaurs. I believe that.
Well, I think that what people wanted at E3 specifically was they wanted to be shown a games console.
Right.
And I think Sony did a better job of doing that than Microsoft. You see, I'm not.
Or did they, Spencer? Or did they just merely through PR, the dark arts of PR, basically, through corporate jujitsu, managed to turn Microsoft's pitch against them without actually revealing very much of their hand?
Well, this is what Sony.
That's fair.
This is what Sony did that impressed me, who really didn't care all that much walking in. Number one, the focus on television and stuff on the Xbox One at E3 might have been the wrong approach.
Might have been.
Number two, Sony pulled in the indies. They got the indie people there and they said, we're about indies. And I went, yay.
So Joe, you're an indie now. Did they talk to you?
No. And sorry, I'm just really cynical. I'm just horribly cynical about that. I mean, maybe I've just been in this industry for too long, but that feels like an absolutely blatant attempt to manipulate public opinion.
But that's just it. Favor. If they're manipulating my public opinion by actually bringing in independent games, I'm all for it. And the independent people I've talked to, and we're going to talk about that in a second, that have had to deal with Microsoft, have got way bigger horror stories than the people who've had to deal with Sony.
Yeah, but the fact is as an indie, it's going to be very difficult working with either of them because you're just not very interesting to them because their reference is totally different. They're interested in games that sell 10 million copies, not a game that's going to sell 500,000 copies. So whatever they say, the proof of the pudding will be in the tasting, and it's going to be very difficult for you to get the kind of attention that's being promised by Sony, I believe.
So I'll go ahead and move on to this next story because I think it's kind of in the same vein. I saw on Penny Arcade there was an article about how indie gaming, and this was written by Dave Allen, I believe. No, it was by Rami Ismail. Vlambeer. And it was about how indie developers are losing their ability to help one another. And actually, this kind of got a fine point drawn on it because I was watching Twitter last night when Kevin Dent and Vlambeer got into it about whether the term indie was just a marketing phrase anymore. and whether Steam was really open to indies at all, unless it was coming from an existing big company. And specifically what the article talked about was he found a great game, and he was about to type an email to the guy and go, hey, if there's anything I can do to help your great game get more exposure. And then he realized there wasn't really much he could do other than the work he's doing with the Indie Showcase stuff with PAX. He really couldn't bend anybody's ear at Steam. He really didn't think he could bend anybody's ear anywhere to help these people make more money.
But isn't there an irony to this whole story? Because he's actually, in bringing the story up, he's created the story and therefore actually helped to promote these people.
Wow, you are cynical.
I'm not cynical. I don't agree with his point. I don't agree that indies are losing the ability to help each other at all. I'm hugely excited about this period of time of being independent, and I love this spirit of cooperation and help that I'm experiencing from people in the same situation.
I think there is a little bit of Chicken Little here. I mean, it's hard to think of another time when it was better to be an indie game developer other than perhaps the very start of the PC gaming scene back in the late 70s, early 80s, you know, when everyone was an indie, essentially. I mean, really, when was the last time in the last 20, 30 years that there were so many indie game developers that were so able to get their products to so many people?
There hasn't been.
Yeah, that's
so it's a golden. It is a golden age. I believe that.
I agree. I think that indie. Now, I'll agree that this golden age has inspired there to be hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people who want to walk in Notch's shoes, who are not going to be able to take that first step to get a game published and released. You know, it's like the guy who comes up with the killer iPhone app, but he doesn't know how to promote it.
See, that's like saying that a software publisher can't be successful unless they reach Microsoft levels of success. You know, Notch is clearly the exception. There are plenty of successful indie developers that haven't created a Minecraft. You know, that I think that's sort of you're setting the bar a little higher up than it actually is.
Well, I agree, but at the same time, I do think that golden ages like this, where people like you, Joe, can step into the indie scene and basically take a product forward to market and make enough money to pay for it and make a profit. You get stuff like, Meat Boy coming out and a movie being made about it because the entire idea of a couple of people sitting in their room making a game and having it become incredibly successful is just incredibly entertaining. And inspiring, but at the same time, all that inspiration is going to go to hundreds and hundreds of people who are going to sit on green light and despair.
Right. Well, I think the point you're making, and I do agree with this, which is that although it is a golden age in terms of the creativity and the new games that are going to be made, the types of games that are going to be made, it's actually the biggest challenge for independence is fundamentally a marketing challenge. And I don't think anybody's really figured that out yet. And I certainly don't think we have, because I was thinking about this morning. I was thinking about these giant console battery farms of developers that I was part of. You know, like the last game I worked on, LucasArts, had 150 people on it. But those have now been broken up, and all these amazingly talented people that were educated into making video games have now, you know, there's been a diaspora of those people into this creation of these little cell-like structures of independent game developers. That's terribly exciting. What that also means is there's going to be an order of magnitude more video games out there for gamers to choose from. So. And of course, there isn't going to be necessarily going to be a marketing structure above that to help promote those games. So how do we, as an independent developer, or how do any of these guys manage to get the attention of gamers out there? How do we persuade people to buy our game?
And I think that's a real issue, and I think that it's going to be a combination of that, you know, Minecraft-esque steamroll.
Right.
getting public. And I actually think that grassroots is the way to go. I think if you can get a bunch of people making Let's Plays of your game and you're helping feed them by making them feel important for doing so, you get free audience there.
Right.
And I think it might be that's one of the ways that people can get attention where, just dueling it out in the green light pit won't necessarily make it.
Can I share with you one of the most painful learning experiences I've ever had in the games industry, which is, as a game designer, I really truly want to believe that the key determinant of my success will be the quality of the product that I make. And as a gamer, I want to believe that the quality of the product will drive its success. And I've discovered in my time working in the business that isn't actually always the case. And I've discovered that by working close to and being associated with some genuinely great games that failed commercially. So Irrational made System Shock 2, which has got a 95% Metacritic score, I believe. It sold 200,000 copies. It was a commercial failure. Freedom Force got 92% and a similarly commercial failure. There are other games like this we can talk about, Beyond Good and Evil.
Just so you know, I have both of those boxes.
Okay, well, great. You were one of them. But Beyond Good and Evil, or some of the Tim Schafer stuff, Psychonauts, brilliant games that didn't sell, and that's because none of those games really had good marketing behind them. Yeah. So this is a huge challenge. Our strategy today is to believe that we can make a great game, and that will hopefully find an audience that will promote it to other people. But I'm under no illusions as to how important marketing is to the success of a video game, and how much of a threat it is to our success.
I think that games like Psychonauts were released in a different era, though. I think that the odd indie title and the slightly retro stuff that are a lot of the critics' favorites are able to succeed a lot more in this environment than they have in the past.
Right.
I think indie gamers have gotten a taste of what all that means and are less concerned with the latest title on the Xbox. Anyway, without digging too much into that, I'm going to link to a couple of these articles and just talk about them. One of them was this Kotaku article that I thought was amazing. These are patents that video game publishers own. It's kind of a fascinating article. For instance, it talks about some of the patents that Zynga and Turbine and stuff have. There's not a whole lot to really debate there, but for instance, the wheel on Mass Effect is patented. So I'll provide this in the show notes. You can see those at ce.deadworkers.com. Additionally, the next one I'm going to put is the Saga of Skulls of the Samurai on Windows 8. We had the Skulls of the Samurai guys on the show early on, a couple years ago. And they actually were priming their game to be a major delivery with Windows 8. And this is kind of the story of how that kind of fell apart. And now,
can I say just real quick on that?
Sure.
I actually have Windows 8, and I had Windows 8 on the day that Skulls of the Shogun came out, and I didn't buy it. I couldn't do it. I couldn't support the Windows Store at all. So,
okay.
I'm sorry, guys.
But it is out on Steam now, and I have pre-purchased it, and I'm very excited about it. And this last thing I wanted to talk about was Penny Arcade kind of does these little video episodes, and they did one recently that I thought really hit a very important point, and that was, and the thing is titled "When Difficulty Was Fun." Is fun. And the idea was that a lot of modern game developers are hand-holding everybody through games and aren't making difficult games anymore. And they're doing it because people are tired of being punished by their games. This is an really interesting look at the difference between rewarding difficulty that makes you want to keep playing to defeat the challenge and punishing difficulty that just makes you resent the game for being what it is. I found this really great. If you get a chance to watch it, I definitely recommend it, and spread it around because I think it's right on the nose.
Well, that's actually something that I, since you brought it up, Joe, you're working on a game right now, and I have played a little bit of it. And where do you think that the fun in Card Hunters comes from overcoming the challenge, or is the fun, is that just part of it? Is there something else to it?
We wrestle with this every day. I mean, it's. I would say it's one of the biggest changes in modern video game design. Is that if you go back and play a game from 1994, 95, play an XCOM, games are brutally punishing. They're super hard and difficult, and games have got a lot easier over the last 15 years. And there's a very simple reason for that, which is that we've been having to try to appeal to a broader audience. So in attempting to try to broaden the appeal of the game, we've actually tried to make games a lot easier. I think with Card Hunter's a strategy game. And so, challenge and difficulty is right at the center of whether that game is a satisfying game. And obviously, you're also struggling with the fact that you're dealing with a very broad range of different skill sets. One way, we're really blessed today is, we made Freedom Force versus the Third Reich 12 years ago. It's guesswork, what represents a satisfying difficulty curve. Today, I was looking at our metrics this morning, and I can see, I actually built a graph to show of the success rate, the relative success rate across all of our different adventures, to try to determine whether they're getting harder at the right intensity and the right level. Sort
of a triumph of the beta test model, then.
Yeah, well, yeah, and it's still not a science. It's still a bit of an art. I mean, I mix it up. I go on the forums every day, and people are dropping out of the game. I mean, it is, you've played it. It's a hard game, right? It's tough.
Oh yeah.
But this is one of the pleasures of doing what we're doing. We're not like the best story I can tell you about this that will illustrate this is that BioShock was the spiritual successor to System Shock 2. And we spent a lot of time talking about why System Shock 2 is a great game. And one of the reasons why is a horror game, which is terrifying. And part of the reason it's terrifying is because it's bloody hard, right? That it doesn't give you any resources. It kills you mercilessly. The monsters are really powerful. And we made a decision to actually make BioShock a much easier game than System Shock 2. And the reason why is because we needed to sell more copies because it was a much more expensive game to make. I don't think it made it a better game. I actually think in some respects, Ken Levine will probably kill me for saying this, I think System Shock 2 is actually a better game than BioShock because of that. Yeah, and so it's so this is a really hard challenge. Because difficulty can exclude a lot of people. We've taken the decision that we're not trying to make a game for everybody. Some people will probably get turned off because they're going to find it hard, but I think the opposite side of that is the people that are going to love this game have been playing strategy games for a long time, and they demand to be treated like adults, and they want something that's tough and challenging, and we're okay with that.
Well, and that's one of the things that this video talks about. You can challenge people. You can make the game difficult. The key is not to punish them. Yeah. Try to get them back into the action quickly. They point out Meat Boy and say, I died hundreds and hundreds of times, and I was never mad because I got back into the action quick. The other thing was give people the tools that they need. Don't change the rules of the game. Don't kill people randomly. Don't do things that make it so people don't feel like the next time they play it, if they use their brain, they can beat it.
I'm in favor of doing most of those things.
But look at something like Demon Souls or Dark Souls, right? Like those games are completely arbitrary in the way they kill you.
Oh, absolutely.
People love them. People love it. They're like, oh, this is great. Kill me again. I love that. So there are no hard fast rules. I mean, we talked about Peggle earlier and how Peggle makes failure a virtue of failure. Like, there are certainly ways you can ameliorate it and improve it, but ultimately a lot of it does come down to personal taste and what you're looking for in a game. And I think that in attempting to make a game to appeal for everybody, you will end up making a game that won't appeal to anybody. You'll end up alienating both camps, and you do have to make a determination. Are you trying to make something which is fundamentally challenging and tough, that is going to generate a reward from overcoming those difficulties, or are you going to try to create a game where people feel very satisfied because they beat it?
I think they're all interesting questions. I have
Speaking for myself, I do not enjoy a game unless it has a 3-hour-long unskippable tutorial.
And with a cutscene as well.
Not just one. What, are you kidding me? Give me all of the cutscenes.
See, and I have to tell you, I actually really like a well done cutscene.
You do?
Yes, I do. And because I feel like a lot of times when you're playing a game, there's a time where you want to step back and imagine it a little bit deeper. And I think cutscenes can do that, whereas when you're in the game, sometimes you're busy thinking about the rules. But when you step back, you start seeing how the rules of the game that you're playing are affecting the narrative of the world. I love the cutscenes in like Star Control. I mean, not Star Control, StarCraft and stuff like that, because I felt like it took what I was doing and personified it a little bit.
Right.
And I think you can do that well. So there's my cutscene.
I have to tell you, I loathe them. In Bioshock 1, there's maybe 1 or 2 cutscenes, and they're disguised as not cutscenes, and that's because we were standing on the shoulders of giants, which is Half-Life 1, which is the first game that really did this, which is to have the confidence to believe that the best storytelling is the stuff that the player experiences, and that in an interactive medium, the greatest crime you can do, the greatest crime you can commit, is to take interactivity out of the player's hands. Because then suddenly it becomes not about him. He becomes just an observer, and it completely breaks the illusion of immersion, which I believe is at the core of great video game experiences. So, and I don't want to denigrate the tremendous skill of something like the StarCraft cutscenes. Like you picked on a great topic there, because they are truly great things to watch.
In their own right,
yeah. But I just feel that they don't actually add to the video game experience. They detract from it.
And while we're on this subject, just real quick, we're running long here, but I wanted to say BioShock Infinite, one of the things that I really disliked was when someone decided that I should be looking at something and press X to look at this on the screen.
Yeah.
That's just another kind of cutscene, and it screams of, we spent so much money on this, please look at it, for the love of God.
Well, it does to a certain extent, but I will tell you why they did that. And I worked on the game for a year, but it was early on, so we weren't at that stage.
Oh, then I won't hold you responsible for that.
And I was managing the story group, and I was helping those guys come up with the story. And the reason to do that is because the biggest challenge as a video game storyteller is you have absolutely no control over the camera and where the player is looking. And so obviously you have to arbitrarily insert things like that in there sometimes to make sure the player actually notices what is a really important story beat.
And I think that there's a precedent for that in real life. I mean, sometimes you notice something out of the corner of your eye, and you might not notice that without the peripheral vision. And I think it's good. I was not bothered by that, except for the times where I felt like it was used for something that I wouldn't have turned and looked at.
This is another thing, like when I notice the press X to look at this out of the corner of my eye, and then I don't look at it, and then I realize, oh no, I'm missing it, and then I press it right at the end, and I have missed whatever it was, so my camera just jerks to the side, and there's nothing there.
But it's the loss of agency as well, and independence. That's what's offending you, isn't it? It's like, look, I'm in this world. I want to determine. I'm in control here. Yeah. I don't want to be told what to do. I also just like being
offended. So,
and you probably have an authority problem, like I do. I hate being told what to do,
look, man.
And I have to make an apology. It is not Skulls of the Samurai. It is Skulls of the Shogun. And I'm sorry. We have a special guest today, Mr. Brad Muir, who was the first guest we ever had on this show. Welcome back.
Core Elements number 1.
You are
Core Elements forever.
You are like you're like that wistful memory who took our virginity. You know, that's the way it works.
That's how I remember. Missed out on
something. I'm glad I didn't come to the first show. Is this a bit of a show you didn't tell me about?
But you have I have touched base with you periodically since then. You've been doing great. Iron Brigade got the name changed. Back in the day, it was.
I think it was Trench when we first talked about it. Now it is Iron Brigade.
Yes, and everything's been going really well over at Double Fine. You guys seem to be, I don't know, successful at pretty much everything you're doing now. Whereas, like, when I was interacting with you, you guys were working without pay a lot of time, weren't you?
I mean, we did have a brief moment there where we missed some paychecks after, it was after Brutal Legend and Brutal Legend 2. We were kind of banking on that happening, and then that didn't happen.
Yeah.
So
And
there was kind of a scary period when we went from one big project into the 4 smaller projects. So that was like Stacking, Costume Quest, Iron Brigade, and the Sesame Street game Once Upon a Monster. Those 4 immediately were getting pitched, and it was close.
It was kind of scary.
It totally worked out, and now everything's great. Kickstarter.
And Kickstarter has been really receptive to you and your company. Pretty much everything that talks about Kickstarter now brings up the Kirsten Bell fundraiser and the Double Fine fundraiser.
that Veronica Mars one and the Zach Braff one. The movies, I feel like games had their moments on Kickstarter, and now movies are kind of having their like big kind of coming out party for Kickstarter. It's really exciting seeing it used for like all sorts of different projects and stuff. That's cool.
But you have a Kickstarter now, and I'm actually trying to promote this now for you because it ends, by the time I release this on audio, it will be ending tomorrow night.
Yeah, actually in the afternoon. It's going to be Thursday, 2 p.m. Pacific.
Wow.
So yeah, if you're listening to this like right away, maybe you can come on over.
Yeah, go to the show notes.
Check it out.
ce.deadworkers.com. Check out the show notes. Get a link to this Kickstarter. Go and check it out. It is called
Massive Chalice.
and evidently there's going to be a massive chalice in it. Is this true?
There will be a massive chalice in Massive Chalice. It's confirmed. Yeah.
and you are already beyond your goal, but you have stated specifically in the stretch goals what is going to happen if you get more money.
We're just going to make the game better.
Very straightforward.
It's like we're still really early on. That's one of the key parts of like doing a Kickstarter at this stage of development is that like it's very hard for us to like lock down features and put stakes in the ground. Like our scope, like one of the things I like about this idea is it's very scalable. Like we don't have like. We don't know exactly what the scope is going to be yet. It's going to be determined by the final budget. So it just made me feel really uncomfortable talking about stretch goals being kind of sacred features. Like I think every feature as you go through their development should be, and Joe can probably totally back me up on this one, is that as you go through development, like every feature should be on the chopping block at any given moment. Just because you want to make the game the best possible game it can be, and a lot of times cutting something, having fewer features, just makes the game better. So if we end up promising some feature as a stretch goal, and then we get halfway through the development and we're like, oh no, like this is not working, this is not fun, the game would be better without this feature. I don't really want to do that to people that back the project. I think that's a really, really kind of thing, because honestly, like I would probably side on the side of the backers, the people that believed in the project, and then the game might not be as good. So yeah, we're just trying to take all the money that we raise and put it into making the game better. And that means we'll get to more of the features that are on our list. And then the other amazing thing is that bringing it to the community so early, we are getting people's craziest favoritist ideas. Is favoritist a word? I don't know, but
it is.
It's like we're in pre-pro. The idea is early, and they are taking the idea and running with it to crazy places that I never even had thought of. And when they run back to us and they tell us about their favorite idea, that just goes in the pile. And then we'll get to more of those ideas the more money that we raise. So yeah,
excellent.
Can I give you an idea for a stretch goal? I know it's late in the game, but just this always works as a stretch goal. Metal dice. Put metal dice somewhere in the game.
Do very well. I've seen several of those Kickstarters that have the minis, and man, they make a lot of money.
Dice, man. Just do it.
Just put some metal dice in there. All right, $1.4 million. Everybody gets
$1.4 million metal dice.
Everybody gets metal dice. Into it.
Well, Brad, I will point people towards your Kickstarter, and you have tentatively agreed to do the show next week.
I would love to come back and talk about the game. Okay,
and we will talk more with you next week about what you are doing, and we're going to talk some more with Joe about what he's doing, and thanks for joining us.
That sounds awesome.
Okay.
That sounds awesome.
Talking to you, Brad.
Thank you very much for letting me jump in and plug it, and we'll talk more about it next week.
Okay, excellent.
MassiveChalice.com. Okay, bye, guys.
See ya.
Later.
Inspiration.
So, Joe, now let's talk about what you're doing. I, as someone who's moved from the big studios to doing your own indie development, what is the thing that you are going to miss the most about being with the big studios?
I miss the people.
Really?
I mean, I'm working, we've got a virtual team. We're spread out all over the world, which is awesome. But, I really, really miss working with the people. I mean, some of these studios have got, I've got to say, the best thing about working in the games industry is the people, right? Because they're all the kind of people I grew up playing games with. And I didn't realize how much I was going to miss that kind of interaction on a day-to-day level.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of funny because, and hold on just one second, I have to fix something. I've got something. There is a window here. Why are you there? I don't want to say, sure, that's fine. Cancel. How do I get rid of this little window thing? No, that's not it.
I love this show so much.
Okay, man. Bringing in Brad screwed up my layout.
Is the light still okay there, guys? Because it's getting apocalyptic Seattle style outside right now.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
It's fine, is it? Okay.
Yeah. How do I get rid? There's a little top bar that just suddenly showed up.
Yeah, I can see a little the tree in your window blowing back and forth quite.
Okay, hold on just one second. I gotta frickin' fix this. If I'm gonna put this on YouTube, I gotta make it work right. There's that. Boop.
It's actually not still light here. It's getting dark because it's 8:30 p.m. What is that blue line?
I don't know. Shut up.
Is it my camera?
No, it's Skype. I nicked the edge of the Skype window.
Oh.
Stupid me. Man, Brad's energy is freaking infectious. That guy.
I don't know. I'm drained.
Yeah, he's very excited about what he's doing. That was really confusing because the guy he introduced me to, I know really well, but he's lost loads of weight. So I was like, who the fuck is that? It felt kind of like, oh, that's a bit awkward. I should know who you are.
Okay, there's that. And then let's do this. Add screen region, more Spencer. Yeah. Make it really big. Let's go here.
There's been a request for me to turn on lights.
No, really, you don't want to see Spencer. It's not something that you want.
Wow, it's got really dark here. Let's see if this makes a difference.
Okay, I have it. It is done. I think. Okay, so now we're going to move on. So, is this like an experiment for you? Are you gonna go back into the big studios, or are you blazing your way out into indie land forever and ever and ever?
I got to tell you, I've really been loving this. Like, do you know what the Peter principle? What the Peter principle is? Like, you're successful at something and you get promoted beyond the level of your general competence. Well, I think that's probably what happened to me in the games industry. I ended up one day I woke up and I was an executive, whereas what I really wanted to be when I got into this is be a game designer and a writer. And then you go from doing the thing you love, making things, to actually being in meetings all day and managing tons of people. And the experience of making video games becomes a complete abstraction at that point. So, to come back and actually get back into the trenches and to be, up to my armpits in, making stuff has been incredibly exciting. So I would love to be able to keep on doing this. I mean, obviously I would love to be able to pay myself as well. I think that's going to be the main determinant, is how long I can afford to eat pot noodles and eat on, live on cereal before I need a proper job.
I mean, are you looking forward to the time where you're just big enough to where you can start delegating code out? I mean, do you want to get big enough to where you can do that, or?
No, because it's actually, the really thing I'm finding incredibly exciting is I'm having to learn stuff every day. Like there's nobody to do anything. Like I've been so used to being surrounded by armies of people to do stuff that I haven't actually learned anything new for years. Whereas in the last 2 months or 3 months, I've had to learn stuff like HTML. Like, nobody's going to change the bloody website. Who's going to do that? Oh, I'm going to have to do that. Oh, right, I better go and do that. And so I've had to pretty much every day I've had to learn something new. And so it's incredibly it's actually incredibly thrilling. Part of it is you feel like you're really growing.
What kind of difficulties are you running into? Like, is there something that you're like, oh, I didn't think about that before I started this?
Well, I mean, we haven't got anybody. The biggest problem is resources, right? We can't, I'm so used to having tons of people to do these things that I didn't really have to worry about being resource constrained. I mean, at the moment on the project, there's really 3 full-time people, of which only John is a full-time coder. We've got Ben as the art director, and I'm a designer and a writer. So it's the hardest thing is actually we can't do most of the stuff we want to do, and we're constantly having to triage really important problems and say, well, we're not going to be able to get to that today or even next week or even next month because we just don't have the people to do it. So that's definitely the flip side.
Are you finding that you're having to do like it seems like there's a lot of CCGs on the immediate horizon. You've got Scrolls and Duel of the Champions going on right now,
and Hearthstone as well.
And are you worried about that? Do you feel are you pushing yourself in particular directions in order to counter that? No,
because here's the thing: 2.5 years ago when we started this, no one was doing these. No one was making online CCGs. Other than it was kind of something that looked a little bit strange. Now, the thing that's happened is since then, Rage of Bahamut came out on the iPhone and was wildly successful, and so that has sort of stimulated an interest in the area, which means that this calendar year I would describe as the year of the online CCG. So I don't know whether to be sort of delighted at our timing, or terrified by the £500 corporate gorilla that is Blizzard, that is probably going to trample all over us.
Right.
I think what I will say about our game is that if you look at it, it doesn't scream of widespread commercial appeal. It doesn't look like we've kind of sat down and tried to cynically engineer something which is going to make us gazillions of dollars. Yeah. In fact, it actually looks the opposite. And so to a degree, I'm not I'm watching what they're doing. I'm interested in what people are doing in this space. I want to learn from them. I hope they're going to do well, because I think if they do well, it will bring more people to this genre. But Card Hunter is such a quirky and unique game. We're just going to do our own thing and hope that resonates, rather than worrying about what everyone else is going to do.
Can I ask? Since you were in the larger publishing world and such, like, what's the difference in how it affects your mood when you get a mention on Penny Arcade on BioShock versus on Card Hunter?
Well, I mean, it's how does it affect us? I think being mentioned on Penny Arcade for Card Hunter is immense. I mean, that's kind of the difference between Oblivion versus we may have a chance of doing something here. So it means more to us. I mean, a game like BioShock Infinite has a publisher with a $30 million publishing budget behind it, so it's not quite as thrilling. But having said that, BioShock 1 was a complete underdog, and the greatest excitement for me was being part of that game right from the start and seeing it go from obscurity to becoming a huge hit. So I mean, they're different thrills, right? I would never take it for granted. I would never take that for granted.
Okay, I was just curious.
Have you? Are you to the point in your development where you've started trying to ponder what you're going to do on the next step? Is it going to be expanding this game once it's released, or have you already got an idea for another project?
We've got a ton of ideas for new things, but there's so much work to be done on this game. I mean, so one of the things that's really been really difficult for us, obviously John and I, we've all been in the industry for like 15, 17 years, and our instincts are quite sort of opposite to what's required to making games today. In that, we've always worked on 2 or 3 year development cycles. You make a game, you spend ages polishing it, then you release it, and then you leave it. And these days it's about getting a game out, in a form that people will like, seeing if people like it, and then continuing to work on it. And that's actually been a very difficult challenge for us, because you're constantly making decisions about when is enough. We've got huge amounts of things we want to do with this game. Like, there are things that I'm really excited about doing. So, for instance, I would love to put co-op into this game. I would love to have incredible co-op raids for you and your friends to play against boss monsters.
That sounds amazing.
Doesn't that sound cool? The other thing I would,
because it's not a game unless I have to be in voice chat with someone.
Well, yeah, and I like playing with my mates, right? Like I love co-op gaming. And here's another thing: I would love to be able to allow people to make their own content, their own modules, and add it and GM for other people. So, but those are hugely ambitious features, and so we got to basically see if people like this game. I mean, in a lot of ways, for me, working on Card Hunter has been a bit like working on BioShock 1. Like, there are times when I look at what we do and I think we're smoking crack. Like, no one's gonna like this game. I mean, Brad was talking about this earlier. I did the pitches for BioShock 1, and it was like, you imagine the reaction I got from people when I went out and I went to a publisher and I said, hey, you know what? Give me $10 million and we'll make you a game about an underwater dystopia based on the writings of Ayn Rand. Right? Yeah, and I feel like that about Card Hunter sometimes, because it's like we're making a game that is an homage to the golden age of Dungeons and Dragons. It's going to make you feel like you felt when you were 10 years old and you found D&D for the first time. Like, I mean, I believe it, but there are times when I think, is this going to resonate with other people? Are they going to like that?
Yeah, I think it will.
Well, I think the truth of it is you never really know, right?
Yeah.
And you never know. And all you can do as a game maker is believe passionately in what you're doing, recognize that you need a lot of good luck, and just pray and hope that people are going to love it. And I'm okay with that.
Have you have you started like creating your own pagan rituals to try to get extra luck here and there? I mean, do you have any superstitions
Yes.
that you're trying to pull off?
Right, yeah. I've been building a pentacle outside in my garden. I plan on sacrificing my dog tonight and howling to the old gods. That's exactly
Why tonight? Why tonight? What's important about tonight?
I dress up as the unicorn Bjorn for Peggle.
Oh well. So what? We really haven't talked much. Like, we haven't asked you to really sell your game. What are some of the features? Like, when you look at what you're doing, what are some of the features that you think are going to make this a unique experience?
Yeah, well, it's. I mean, I think the style and the aesthetic we talked about is genuinely unique. It really is a throwback to the original D&D, and I think there's nothing that looks like it. And the story we've written around that is really. I don't know who actually played it, but it's the story is about the interaction between you and Gary, who's the game master, and his profound power struggle with his older rules lawyer brother Melvin, and so that kind of take on the fantasy genre is unique. Like, but I think the gameplay itself is something that people haven't really experimented with before. And I think here's the interesting thing: is that there's an intersection between collectible card games and video games that no one, I believe, to this point has really exploited. And I believe that attempting just to make a collectible card game and put it online is missing an opportunity, and that's the opportunity we're trying to exploit, which is to try to take the best of both worlds and combine them. So on the one hand, our game is a collectible card game fundamentally, but it's also a game very much in the style of very much in the style of Diablo. It's a dungeon crawler that features the notions of space and movement, which you really can't capture with a traditional CCG. So it is actually it's a totally unique and brand new type of CCG gameplay, and I think it's pretty exciting. But I would think that because I'm working on it.
Well, I have played it. I actually the day. I think it was the day that Wes told me that you were going to come onto the show. You also accepted me into the beta, and I've played it since then. And I have to say, it's one of the games I'm most. I love it. It's really a good game. So
that's good. And what do you like about it? I mean, you to tell me, what do you think it does well?
Well, there's very little about it that I don't like.
Right.
Just because, I come from the tabletop RPG tradition, and and I like the board game mechanics, and I like the art style. I am enjoying that, the little cutout people running around, and it's just. I'm having a hard time coming up with a negative side of it. So and I think Wes can attest that that's pretty rare for me. So
it's very kind of you to say it. I mean, I think something I've heard from a lot of people is that. So I mean, we talked a bit about this at the start that. I believe you can't lie to gamers, right? Like we've all been playing games for 20, 30 years, right? Like if it feels real, it feels real. You can smell a fake. And the thing about this game is this, like BioShock and like Plants vs. Zombies and like Peggle, this is a real labor of love. And I believe that comes across in the game. And I'll just tell you a little story just to illustrate this. And I'm probably going to get in trouble for this, which is John Che, who's my partner at Blue Manchu, who's the creative mind and everything behind this game. He was the producer on System Shock 2. He's a genius. He made me rewrite a ton of the story, and I'm still cursing him for it. And that's because one day he called me up and he said, Joe, like you've got LARPing in the game. You've mentioned LARPing in the story, and I said, yeah. What's the problem with that? And he goes, well, this game is set in the late 70s, early 80s. Right? This is set in, and I said. And he goes, well, you can't have any modern day references in it because that will make it inauthentic. And I shit you not, I had to rewrite about 5,000 words of story because of that. And at no place in the whole game do you know that. And I said this to him. I said, no one's gonna care. No one's gonna know. But
what a dick!
No,
oh my god!
I know. I felt that at the time, but now I was thinking about. I was shaving this morning. I was thinking that is the difference between something being good and something potentially being great. It's because that's the stuff that makes it totally authentic. And so I hope that people will feel the love that we put into it. And it's been a really amazing thing to work on. It's made me very, very happy.
Well, speaking as a former LARPer, I'm asking you for a sequel right now that does involve LARPing.
Well, there's actually LARPing is a bit of a. I do actually talk about LARPing, and I will come out. I will confess on this show that I was a LARPer. I did LARPing, and it's been a bit of a bone of contention on this project because when I worked at Irrational, Dorian, who is also one of the game designers on this game, he was at Irrational too, and we both did a podcast for Irrational, which you can find out there, where we both discuss our LARPing experiences, and we came from very different LARPing traditions. He took it very seriously, and I found the whole thing quite funny and amusing. And so, but I think that's all part of it, right? The game is about celebrating gaming and growing up, being a nerd and being really into this stuff, and it being really important to us. And I hope that comes across.
Okay, so let's, everybody who's listening, there's a couple things you can do to support the show. First off, you can go to netflix.com/deadworkersparty. You can get a free 30-day trial for Netflix. It'll help support the show as well. I've been watching Black Books lately, which is a BBC comedy about a oops, and I am not doing this right. And it's a BBC comedy about a really terrible bookstore in London. And I've really been enjoying that. You can get 30 days free and help support the show. Additionally, you can go to audibletrial.com/core elements and get a free 30-day Audible trial. You get a free book for trying it out. Plus, if you decide to subscribe, you'll get a free book each month and 30% off all additional purchases. Lastly, we have a really special offer from lootcrate.com. Lootcrate.com will ship out little boxes of nerdy goodies to you every month. And if you go to lootcrate.com/deadworkers, you can use the coupon code DEAD and get $3 off your order and get little miniatures and dice and t-shirts and all kinds of stuff to adorn your cubicle with nerdy goodness. So that's lootcrate.com/deadworkers. If you're curious about any of these are all in the show notes. You can go to ce.deadworkers.com and see the show notes. I do have a couple of, there was someone in the chat room who wanted to ask you a particular question, Joe. They were curious, they want to become a game designer. How hard is it to study game design and then go out and actually get a game design job?
Oh dear. I don't want to dampen anybody.
I was going to say, try and tell him without destroying his world.
I know. Well, I think it's super hard to get a job as a game designer out the gate. I would advocate like the well-trusted path to becoming a game designer in the industry is to get into a good company as a QA or as a quality assurance guy or as an associate producer and really grind your way up and win respect. And that's how 90% of the game designers in the industry have done it. And it's a really good way to do it. It's the only way really to do it. So that's if you're looking for advice how to do it, that's what I'd suggest.
Now, a lot of people have talked when we've asked this question about the whole, design a level, do level design, do mod design, build a portfolio before you start. Do you think that there's any meat in that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's huge. And I will say, somebody spent a long time trying to hire game designers, young and novice game designers. It's really hard to find people. And so, I would say the best thing to do is go out and actually build something. Because it's a bit like when people say writers write, like I say that game designers design. And that's how I got my first job as a game designer in the industry. I managed to blag my way into having an interview with Peter Molyneux. And I went down to his house and I had a board game which I had built in a week. And I got it out and I turned up and I had like 60,000 words of stuff, and I just put it on his dining room table, and he was like, right, this guy wants to design games. And so that's what I think that's a great way to do it, is go and get involved in a mod community, or even just get a level editor of your favorite game and build stuff so you can show people that you really, really mean it.
I'm going to read this email just because I feel like being happy. This is from Infested ASDF. He said, I've been listening to your podcast for some time now, and I can honestly say it's by far the best podcast I've come across on the internet. Did you hear that, Spencer? The best.
Well done, guys.
Man. He needs to listen to more podcasts.
It's the perfect combination of intelligent and funny. You have real talent. I rarely take time to email people, but you definitely deserve it. Thank you for being truly awesome. No, thank you for recognizing our glory.
You're recognizing your brilliance.
Yes, thank you.
Bask, you bastards.
And then we'll ask one last question. This is from Pistol Whip. He says, I am a 16-year-old PC gamer from South Australia, and my question is this. My parents are against me playing violent video games such as TF2 and Counter-Strike Go. This is frustrating because I really want to play games with my friends, but I can't get them. But I can't play the games that they play. So instead, I'm stuck playing Star Wars Battlefront 2 or Portal 2 for the billionth time. Can you think of a way to convince my dad to let me play these games?
Here's a better thing. Convince your friends to play the games that you can play.
Yeah. I think that there is plenty of high quality stuff out there that is not inherently violent. It's hard for me. I was showing my son Indiana Jones 2, and he's 5 years old, when he was 5 years old, and I love it. It's action adventure. I can't imagine it harming anyone. But then I started getting to the Mola Ram heart scene, and I went, what have I done? And so, parents have a really tough time. And the other thing that I might recommend you doing is seeing if your dad will play one of these games that you like with you, so that he can handhold you on some of these things the way that will make him comfortable, so that when he walks away, you can still do these things. I think TF2 is cartoony, silly violence, like the Roadrunner and, Bugs Bunny. And maybe once he interacts with it a little bit, he'll grow to appreciate it as well.
I'd make him play Peggle.
Multiplayer Peggle.
Yeah,
do it.
but that
can get ugly multiplayer though.
But that unicorn is a Satanist. He's got a pentagram in the garden. Well, Joe, we will let you go. This has been a great show. And I really appreciate you coming with us. Coming on with us.
Yeah.
Now, you've offered to let us give out some beta codes. So everyone who's listening to the show, if you are interested in joining the Card Hunter beta, I have a finite number of these codes. And if you will send us an email talking about either a guest that you would like to have on the show in the future, or a question for our guests or a question for us, or I will gladly give away a code for nice complimentary emails about the podcast, like the one I read recently. But if you will just drop me an email, email.
Stroke Wes's ego.
It's true.
Do it.
It's true. Don't mock me. I need it. But you can get the email addresses if you go to ce.deadworkers.com. It's listed there. You can drop us an email at, and I'm double checking this, coreelements@deadworkers.com. And what we will do is we will email these codes back to you so that you can get into the beta. Anyway, Joe, you have been a real pleasure. I hope that you will consider coming back on the show, and if you ever need to promote, let us know, and we'll interrupt Brad Muir's episode with your promotional stuff.
Thanks so much for having me. I look forward to returning that favor to him as well. Thank you. It's been a real pleasure chatting with you guys.
Yeah, thanks, Joe.
And everyone have a great week. We will have an episode next week. Brad Muir from Double Fine. And you guys take care.
Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Core Elements, exploring gaming one element at a time. A podcast by the Dead Workers Party. See the show notes and get more information at coreelements.deadworkers.com or leave us a voicemail at 256-812-1010.
Dead Workers Party Network, filling your ear canals with our voice.